Fellas, say goodbye to Chuck Sherman the boy. I am now a man. I highly recommend you join the club. We are doing the wild thing all night.
Acid house music.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Sherm.
Sherman, I cook all this food. Is that all you gonna eat?
General Sherman realized and understood the importance of house music.
So, do you know anything about techno?
No.
Listen.
Get it on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another brand new episode of Sherm in the Booth. I'm, of course, your host, Sherm. Today is Wednesday, October 12th, 2020. This is episode 131. I hope everybody's enjoying their fall season so far. The year is absolutely flying by. I think we can all agree I'm ready for it to be over. I'm hoping 2021 is going to be a little bit better. But episodes like this are helping me get through it, guys, and I am so pumped about this one. This is a massive interview. Episode 131 features a big-time player in the Rising Stars group for electronic music, and he goes by the name of Kyle Kinch. Kyle Kinch, K-Y-L-E-K-I-N-C-H. I'm going to spell it out for you right now so that you go and look him up right away, because this is one of my favorite producers in the game. Kyle is an absolute powerhouse producer who is building an incredible brand, and it was so great to hear his full story. In episode 131, we talked about Kyle's early beginnings in music and his love for jazz and soul. In so many of his productions, he uses different types of influences from artists and musicians in the jazz and soul scene, and it was so cool to hear how he does that. We also talked about how he got involved in the electronic music scene as a DJ and a producer and what he loves most about it. This is a man who is a fan first, and I loved his energy when we were talking about that, because that is a huge element that I think a lot of people forget about. We love it because we were fans first. Now, like I said, guys, he is an absolute powerhouse producer and has had an amazing journey so far. He's released on labels like Gorgon City's Realm, Sonny Fodera's Solotoko, Greco's Rawsome, and most recently did an official remix for the one and only Duke Dumont. To say this guy's on fire isn't even necessary. This dude is literally the center of the earth. He's making so many bangers, and it has just been such a great year for him, all things considered. As you can imagine, with exposure on labels like that, your name is going to rise up in the charts. And this guy has worked for every single stream. It is truly incredible to see people like Fisher, to see people like Camelphat, to see people like David Guetta support his music. And I wanted to ask him firsthand what it really feels like. And of course, with big support comes big shows. This guy has played at the Brooklyn Mirage in New York City, and it's actually his hometown. He had some amazing stories for some shows, but it was really, really cool for him to go full circle from where he grew up to coming back to play at one of the biggest and best music venues in the entire world. Now, I really do mean it when I say I'm a huge fan of this guy, and it was so cool to have a deep conversation with him on his stylistic approaches to producing. It's really, really cool when you talk to a guy like Kyle who has basically taught himself to produce, and he gives little pieces of advice like less is more, but then actually explains what that means. If you guys are interested in learning more about music production, make sure you listen in for the latter part of this interview when Kyle shares some of his tips and tricks to production. Alright, enough of me talking, guys. It's time for you to hear his story for yourselves. Let's get into it right now. This is episode 131 with Kyle Kinch. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time today, man. I'm such a massive fan. This is really special for me, for real.
Well, good shit, man. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. You've been on fucking fire lately, too, bro. Like, all things considered, with, like, this wall like we've never been up against, you have been killing it on the releases, man. Congrats on everything.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I really wanted to push it heavy on the releases. I had the music, and I'm creating every day, so there's no reason why I shouldn't. Give the people something to listen to.
Yeah, for sure, of course, man. I'm excited to get your full story and everything. I'm not sure if you checked out anything, but I've got some awesome questions for you. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm a fan, so we're gonna go a little deep.
That's how it would be, man.
Hell yeah, man. I'm a house producer myself too, and I have a lot of people who watch the show that are, beginner, intermediate, and expert. And I always love talking to the people I interview about the production process and stuff too. So we can get pretty granular on plugins, style, DAWs, all that sort of stuff, man. So
most definitely.
Yeah, man. I'm excited though these conversations always end up just being so much fun. It's like the opposite of 60 minutes, okay? So I'm going for like just a good time with a friend, right? Let's pretend that we're at the club, except there's no music on. You know what I mean?
That's cool with me.
You know that game. That's where the good conversations happen, right? With the homies.
Yeah, definitely.
How you been doing, though? Everything good?
Everything's been good, man. You know, I do actually have a day job, so I've been lucky to have that through this time. So, you know, I still have money flowing through. Obviously not as much as before because, you know, no gigs and all like that. But I mean, I'm better off than most people, and I'm just thankful for that, you know. And I hope we can really get back to what we're doing, but obviously in a safe environment for everyone, you know, because this stuff isn't a joke. So.
No, it's not a joke, man. Appreciate you saying that. And dude, I've had a day job too. I'm usually in Chicago. I'm actually at home in Indiana right now. This is not movie theater. But I have a day job in Chicago too. I moved there about 6 years ago, and I've always had one, and I've never been more grateful because you have those moments, I'm sure, especially you, man. You've probably been like, dude, fuck this day job. Like, I'm hitting it big, right?
Yeah, man, it's rough because, you know, especially when you're in a position where you're so close to being able to be at the point where, you know, I could just only do music, and like it's just like it's really hard because like you want to stay focused, but you gotta understand that also at the same time like you need this to be able to facilitate, you know, your process to getting to that place. So it is it is a mental struggle, but at the same time, like, you know, I've got a great job, I got abilities, so like, you know, I'm very grateful for what I have. So.
That's good, man. I'm happy for you because that's a lot more than a lot of people can say. Like high and low in the business, right? There are a lot of DJs who are successful. That I mean, I don't know like their financial situation, but you can only assume without touring, like money's definitely tighter, right?
Yeah, of course, man. A lot of people, I mean, most of the people rely on touring. You know, that's the big thing. You know, so it's definitely a struggle for everyone.
Yeah, you're not making what is it, like 0.0001 on Spotify streams?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody we know personally is getting rich off that shit, man. It's like
there's an old like hip hop producer that did like a whole like video like talk about like how to like maximize that, and he basically said that the only way that you're going to be able to make crazy money with Spotify is like you've got to own 100% of your stuff, and then it's got to do big numbers, you know what I mean? So like it's a very hard game, but at the same time everybody uses Spotify, so people find you so quickly, you know, and stuff like that. Like the amount of people, my fan base is growing just from Spotify is really amazing. You know, it started to overtake my other platforms where I was stronger on. Like Spotify's now where my main fan base is. So you know, I can't be bad at it.
No, man. Actually, it's funny. My dad was just asking me because the podcast is on Spotify and everything like that. And even 2 years ago, they were doing things a lot differently, man. It was only like first they were like no podcasts, and then they were like, okay, we'll do like BuzzFeed, NPR, and major stuff like that. And it was no like, let's just call it freelance for me, right? Yeah. And it was so hard for me to get on. I had to apply. I had to like show them who I was. Like it was like applying for a job, and I'm like, dude, I just got a podcast, man. Can we put it on Spotify? Like, what is the big deal here?
I just want to give my people options.
I know, and like these days, you have to give them every option. So this will be on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. Got to give it to them all, right?
Yeah, you got to give it to them any way you can, man, because you want it to reach the max amount of people.
I know. It's crazy, though. I have some questions for you because something I always love for people who have been hustling, at least in the past 5 to 10 years, is what happened to SoundCloud, how in the beginning, like, I always bring it up, man. Like, people like those mashup DJs like Capslap and Blau obviously has eventually gone on to grow his own brand. Those guys are going on worldwide tours off a mashup on SoundCloud.
Yeah, man. It was really crazy time. It was a really crazy time because you could find any artist, and then like next thing you know, like you give it like a month and they're blown up. And it and anybody could have posted. Anybody could have put up stuff. Anybody could be found. So it was like a loophole to the industry for a second, which is really crazy, But I feel like the issue with SoundCloud is that it kind of maybe failed to evolve a little bit, but it's still a great platform. I can tell you most of the DJs that will end up buying my music, I believe at least 75% of them come from SoundCloud. When I post a track on SoundCloud, I got the link right there, and they're like, "Oh man, this jams," and they're like, "Well, I'm gonna need this for Friday or Saturday whenever I'm playing," and it goes straight through that. So I know usually whenever I push on SoundCloud hard, that it actually translates to sales down the road. So it's still very useful. Yeah. And I love it for DJ sets and stuff. Like I love listening to a good Gorgon City set, or the Lane 8 mixtapes. I'm a big fan of those. I put those on while I'm working, man, and it lets my mind wander. And then, like, while I'm at work working and I'm listening to this music, I also find myself getting inspired musically, for when I want to go home and get in the studio. So, like those things are crucial, and SoundCloud makes it easy. It's real easy. So
yeah, no, I mean, SoundCloud has always been my thing, and it's true these days. It's funny because there's a time like in 2012 through 2015 when people were starting to become DJs, and now these days, man, there's 15-year-old producers in the game who are making hits like they've been in it for 15 years. There's no barrier to entry for them, right?
Yeah, man.
Now SoundCloud, in my opinion, is not so, I guess, if I'm just a music consumer, I use Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube. If I'm a DJ or producer, I use SoundCloud to find new music.
Very true.
Right, and that's what they need to be smart about, and they've gotten a little better about it with Twitch, the partner affiliation, with some of the random stuff they've done for better or for worse. But I agree with you. I still find it to be very useful, and there's definitely a huge amount of people that still use it. But it's when you look at somebody like Zed's Dead, who was like really in the beginning of the SoundCloud boom, they've got like 5 million followers on SoundCloud, dude, and you and I hustling out here for hitting the 4-digit mark, right?
if you look at if you go to SoundCloud and you haven't logged in yet, the only reason I know is because I go through sometimes when I'm at work, like I don't actually account. If you go on the main page, Zed's Dead still on the front. It's just them. It's them on the front, and it's like it just shows how major they took over that platform. And I still actually like Zed's Dead a lot, even though bass music's not really my thing. Yeah. The way they did it was so kind of smooth, and like even when I was I wouldn't say upcoming, it's more the middle area of my production area. But, I did a Zed's Dead remix of one of their tracks. I believe it was Rave. Yeah. And I flipped it on its head, man. It was a headbanger track, and I made it a super deep house, like almost, feelsy, floaty track. So,
I went through your discography today, brother. I got I'm deep in the Kyle Kinch history in 2016, 2015. So you better get ready, okay?
Really? All right, cool. Yeah, I'm about that.
So I think this is going to be episode 131. So I think I've done well over 100 interviews. So my favorite thing is to just ask questions you had never been asked before and talk about music, bring it back so we can talk about your journey, man. I'm pumped.
Awesome. That's great, man. I'm all about it.
For sure, man. Well, we'll get started then. I'm sure you got things to do. But like I said, we'll just talk your story, beginning, middle, and end. We'll get into your productions. And I'm definitely curious to hear about your style and, of course, your thought on the current state of the industry and, any conversation that flows from there, man. There's no time limit. That's why I like to do it on Skype, so we're not feeling like we got to do something, right? It's awesome to talk.
I feel you 100%. Well, yeah, man. So for me, I actually started doing music when I was real young. I was playing the piano around like age 5, and then once I got a little bit older, I picked up the saxophone and I was doing that for a long time. And so music was always in me, but I kind of lost my passion for doing playing the saxophone and doing instrumentation. It's just what happens when you get a little bit older, you get in your teenage years.
Yeah,
and And like I was always doing everything, you know. I played almost every sport and all like that. So like trying to balance that plus school plus music, you know, it was just so much going on. So, but then when I got into college, well, you know, even though like I wasn't playing instruments, like music was still very in the forefront for me. You know, had my headphones on all the time, listening to new stuff. Finding new artists, listening to new genres, everything. And then when I got into college, is when I really started getting in the I started getting in the house. I had a few friends that like really put me on, and you know, my favorite thing is thinking about back then when like you first get into the house scene, because it's like a kid in a candy store, bro. You walk in and it's just so deep. There's so many things, and there's so new things to listen to that you've never heard before. Yeah. And like I just felt so excited all the time when I hear stuff, you know. And that was during the boom too. That was like, you know, like Avicii and all them, like right as they started getting up, you know. Swedish House was just starting to take over. But at the same time, while I was listening to those people, I was also listening to Green Velvet and Mark Knight and like, you know, all those guys. And like, so like I was taking in the house scene in many different levels. I was taking on the EDM level and on the house level. So like I really, really loved it. And then I started to realize that I've been listening to house music for the longest. Like when I was a kid, I'll be listening to like, you know, Robin S. and, you know, all those old school, like, you know, what Night at the Roxbury, like any tracks from that.
It had fundamental house elements though, right? You're totally right, dude.
It was house, man. Look, bro, I'm gonna be real. I have the Night of the Roxbury CD somewhere in this house. And somewhere, I promise you, and it's fire from start to finish. So like when you realize that you've had a connection to something for so long, and then you got rekindled, you're like, wow, you know. Right. So then that kind of just obviously progressed to me starting to DJ, and as everybody starts out, man, you know, I first started out in my bedroom for the longest, and I wouldn't come out for like 6 months. I wouldn't play for anybody. Nothing. I wanted to make sure like I was good at this shit before I started playing for people.
Right.
And then I got the chance to play for a friend's house party, and I end up what year was this? This had to be like 2011, and like it had to be like 2011, and like they were like, bro, you're kind of good, and then like right off of that, I got a bar gig, and so I started playing bar gigs, and then you had to learn the DJ the hard way type thing.
Format life, we all got to go through it. We got to earn our stripes.
I got a crash course real heavy because I'm out here trying to play like EDM stuff, and the promoters are coming in like, bro, you gotta play hip hop. What are you doing? Like, oh, and it was rough. Yeah. But like, you know, when you learn the ropes, you also start to learn how to read a crowd, and by that I've been playing a mixed, mostly open format for about 2 years. Mm-hmm. Even though I wanted to play house, and then I got the ability to play house when I started playing at this one place, and I was the opener, and I couldn't play hip hop because those guys are going to be playing it after me, so I couldn't play their tracks. Right. So I'm like, all right, and so I had 2 hours, and I played just straight house for the first hour, and like that's where I really got to find my own sound.
That was in Florida then?
Yeah, that's right. All this was in Tampa, man. My DJ career fully started in Tampa.
I know there's a lot of things that go on in Florida, but like, how is Tampa for electronic music? Like, since you've been involved?
Yeah, man. So Tampa, it's very much gone into waves because like it's got a little bit of everything, but it's definitely the heavier stuff is more prevalent. The bass music and stuff like that. Right. And the biggest club that's here, that was what they were really pushing for a while. But there was still a heavy house scene because of, you know, that there was that group that really wanted to do it, and that built up too. Right. And so, but like now, you know, as as things progress, like, Nightflight's getting a lot harder, so like venues are closing down.
Right.
And so, but that main place that was like booming all the bass music is still open, and they decided that they want to start doing house. Right. So they brought me in, and so I do the Saturday. Yeah, so I have my Saturday night residency there, and I'll be playing house on the regular. But Tampa in general is just like, it's a very like high energy place. Like people are wanting to go out and party hard.
Yeah, bro. I heard.
And that's why the bass music is definitely so prevalent. But at the same time, like the house crew here is a very close knit type of people.
Right.
And like they really do, when those events go on, like it's really something special. So like even though it's not at the forefront, it's still at the very core. It's still at the core of what Tampa is.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
So you were the house guy. Sounds like one of your only friends that was DJing, right? When did you decide I need to start producing, or how did you get influenced with like kind of nobody? Because in Chicago, man, you know Chicago, bro. Like everybody, you can find a DJ or producer pretty quickly. But
yeah.
It sounds to me like, at least from the local scene creatively, it was maybe just you and some friends. What was it like then?
So there was a lot of us, but I was kind of still on my own, just doing just playing events and stuff.
Right.
And then I had one of my homies that played the same slot that I did at that same place I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. That was like, I was playing the opening slot. Right. And he was big in the house, and him and all his friends, we all got together and we started this kind of DJ collective. And like those core guys we all helped each other in the areas where we were lacking. This was also the same time where I came in my own revelation that I'm not trying to play that bar shit no more.
Yeah.
I'm trying to play straight house, and I'm like, I'm gonna start producing. So I already started like working on stuff for a bit, and like obviously because since I had that musical background, I still had a very fundamental idea of how to do it. But those guys really showed me. It was called Smokehouse. Those guys really showed me, how to produce, and then at the same time were the catalyst for me to keep going. They were the ones where I'd be like, yo, man, I started something, it's probably trash, and I show it to them. They're like, yo, this is actually kind of fire. I'm like, word, I'm gonna keep working on it. So like having those people and that also together, we also started bringing a lot more house artists and events and putting on our own events, and that kind of just really helped push all of our careers to the future. And like a lot of those guys are doing big things now. I mean, some of them are great producers. Some of them are doing sound engineering for like big pop artists and stuff like that. So we all benefited heavy from that,
Hey, sometimes you want something done, you gotta do it yourself, right?
Yeah, you're right, man. You're right, and it definitely, they helped everything that I had done. Some of them still help. One of them is my manager still. The other guy is my mastering guy, my mix and mastering guy. So like, we're all still very close together. So that's how we kind of got it started, and that's where my stuff started to pick up. And then I started just being able to feel confident in my own productions without having to like go and check with somebody, be like, hey, this okay? I can start building my own ear where I'm like, all right, I think this is dope. It's good. Dope. Yeah.
So 2011, because from my research here, 2015 you released your first track. So 2011 to 2015 you were producing, you were DJing, you were kind of like figuring out what you want to do. What was the time there until you released your first track then?
So I would say I got with Smokehouse around 2014.
Okay.
Going into 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And after that is when we decided, hey, we want to release our own like group, like EP with everything that we were doing.
Right.
And that's how we released. My first track was Shoot. It was on SoundCloud. Yeah. It was on SoundCloud, and it was obviously I used the sample from was it not Salt and Pepper? Maybe it's Salt and Pepper. I don't know. I can't even remember who it was from, but we released that, and that was like the first time I actually put out something that I was working on, and the reception was really, really good, and I'm like, okay, maybe I can keep doing this. So then I made my next track, Cheeseburgers, and I think that came, I don't know, maybe that came out at, like, I'd say about 6 or 7 months after. It was a while. It was a big gap in between that.
I hadn't heard it. I put it on today, and I was like, oh, shit.
I go back and hear it sometimes, and I'm like, it's definitely not how I sound now, but it ain't bad. It ain't bad. I've had people ask me, like, yo, like, you need to like do like a Cheeseburgers 2.0.
You should, man. VIP cheeseburgers.
I you know what? I might, man. We'll see what's up, man. If I ever find a little time where I'm like just lacking on projects, maybe I'll just boot it up and see what happens. You know?
Yeah, of course. I mean, and so you shooting Cheeseburgers and the Andromeda EP with Forest and Andromeda, and that was a much different sound than those first two, though.
Yes. So that's the hard thing about when you're producing early.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of things that I'm interested in.
Right.
And when I was producing that, I wanted to make that sound. I was very happy about it, but I didn't know if it was the right thing for me to release at that point. Because like I haven't really solidified myself as an artist.
Yeah.
You know, and I put out 2 tracks that are pretty techy. I'm just gonna put out this Deep House EP, but like people loved it.
Yeah, man, they did well.
And it's another track, and those are tracks that I go back and listen to still.
Hell yeah.
I still go back and listen to those tracks heavy. And so yeah, that was on Jet Alone. And I was really lucky those guys were like let me, because that was the first time I got to release on something that wasn't Smokehouse. That was kind of like a legit label.
Right.
And so that was like the first stepping stone of me going to like, all right, we're getting a little bit bigger now, you know, we're taking a step up, you know. And yeah, man, I really do love those tracks, especially Andromeda. It's just very very groovy.
It was really cool because, like, you know, I've been a fan of you, really seriously following you for probably the past 2 years, and then go back to then. You know, of course, I said I've interviewed a lot of people, and it's always so interesting just from having a producer's ear and hearing people's stories like you. There's always a little something, Kyle, even in the tracks that don't sound like you do now. And to me, I heard this driving kick, even in the Deep House. I was like, there's something Kyle Kinch about this kick. And then I started your stuff in 2017. All You Need Is Rhythm EP. I'm like, here he goes. Like, like. He's starting to figure it out, right? Where were you at, like, inspirationally, like, I guess in terms of, like, your skills then, when 2016 you started releasing music, you started taking it more seriously, obviously.
So those, I would say, I really do think those are more of my breakout kind of works. With those, I just felt, at that point, I felt very confident in what I could do. Wow. Tracks were coming together quicker in the studio for me. Yep. Everything started to sound like it was moving, and it went from stuff that, you know, that like, hey, like I need to play this because it's my track in the club, to stuff where I'm like, I'd actually play this in the club, you know? Yeah, I know. And like producers don't realize that because, like, you know, obviously people don't realize when you start as a producer, you already have a good ear for music usually because it's something you want to do now. You started as a DJ like yourself too. You know what's good. You know what's good. But when you start producing, your stuff's gonna sound trash. It's just how it is. Yeah. And so it's the most frustrating thing in the world. Mm-hmm. But once you can get over that hump and you could start to like feel very confident in what you're making, you're like, this is dope. Like that's the greatest feeling. Right. And so that EP is where I'm like, all those tracks are ones that I would play. And I was playing out consistently, and you know, and I was sending it places, and people were digging it. I think I sent what was it, Rainbow Road? It was the middle track in that EP. Mm-hmm. I sent it to Option 4 because he out in Denver because he was doing like an artist search, and he loved it, and he ranked it as one of the top 10 tracks he was sent for that. Hell yeah. And it's crazy now because me and him are really good friends. He's brought me out to play. Yeah. But like before that, he didn't realize that I was a part of that little DJ thing he did because it was so far back.
Wow.
So like getting to come back and remind him like, yo man, you actually were giving me props at my beginning. was a crazy thing. He was just mind blown. He couldn't believe it. So yeah, man, that's definitely where I started to get in the right mode too. And that's also the same time where I started using my main guy for mix and mastering, Ken, and we started to develop a really good relationship so that, you know, once my track is done, like he really knows how to clean it up so perfectly for me, you know?
Right.
So like it sounds like, you know, me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything is just like with all that working together, like that was just able to push my stuff forward. So
yeah. You were really rounding out your sound at that point. I mean, I know you're just from hearing your story, of course, in the beginning with groove and soul and disco, right? Like we were getting disco deep tech, man, and that's when the Zed's Dead remix came out too, Rave, that year.
Yeah, it was right around then. I think I released it for Sunset Music Festival because it was that weekend.
Right.
It was Memorial Day weekend and Zed's Dead was playing, so I'm like, this is the perfect time to release this, man. Tampa's hype about it. Zed's Dead mine, like let's throw it out there, you know.
That's awesome, man. And that was a big year for you, like streaming wise. I mean, you were racking in like those little bit of acknowledgement is huge just on like a platform like that. So I can tell, like just hearing you now, like it gave you kind of that like boost of confidence, right?
Yeah, it helped a lot. Seeing that a lot of people were feeling it, you know, because like I said, you got to get over those certain humps. You had to get over the hump where you personally need to feel like your track's dope. But then when you get over the hump where everybody else thinks your shit's dope, that's when you really hit overdrive. You know?
Yes.
And that's where you really can start like, all right, now I can start really experimenting with what I could do. You know?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, you go fast forward into 2018, you really start making waves in 2018, Kyle. I know you know this, but the Blue Pill comes out. I mean, it's funny you said that because I could tell you really cleaned up your mix downs. Like it was clean, man. Like your FX, like everything about it, your risers, downlifters, like there's just like I of course I can look at your project files, but I could tell like you were kind of going for a less is more approach, but everything really, really has a story, like no matter big or small. And I started hearing that when I listened to your Blue Pill EP. What was the story behind that where you were at that point production wise?
So I had a homie who's here in Tampa. He had a label called Furious Funk. And he had asked me if I wanted to release with him. And I was like, yeah, of course, man. Like, that'd be some great stuff. At that point is where I really started to get into the more – I was able to produce the more driving stuff.
Definitely.
Right? And I really started to really understand what kind of made a complete track at that point, you know? And, like, I always am a big fan – I was always a big fan of less is more. But, like –
all right, I got it right. I was right then.
I've always been a big fan of that.
Yeah.
But your understanding of that, you know, it evolves later in because you start to realize like less is more might not necessarily mean just like, okay, less instruments, trim the fat. Sometimes it's like maybe this sound doesn't need to be all that right here at this part of the track. You know? Like it sometimes you got to take and you know, move the track around a little bit more so that it just sounds a lot cleaner. And that was the point where I really started to get that stuff going. Especially with the track itself, Blue Pill. That's because I really wanted some like big sounds in that, but I wanted it to come out clearly. Yeah. So and I think the lead track of that was Oh Nah. And I think my favorite, I actually like to still like go back and play that one still every now and then.
Hell
know? So that was some really good stuff, man.
Of course. I mean, you followed it up though with such a significant release, man. Gorgon City's Realm, right? This was the first non-Gorgon City release on their label, right? And dude, Manchester EP, Manchester and Do It To Me. I mean, come on, let me give you a fucking round of applause. I remember seeing that because I'm a huge Gorgon City fan, and when they brought that out, it was clear to me that they were doing this label to kind of, I guess for lack of a better term, unleash this club side of them, this underground side of them. And of course, they found success through their radio hits. But then I see them release all of their own tracks. And then I see you come out, and I'm like, well, this guy's got to be something good, bro. And that's when it all kicked off for you, man. Like, you came out there, and you're getting worldwide support from some of the biggest in the game. What was it like for you at that point to have that official recognition?
It was really unreal.
Seriously, dude. The guy Tampa, like, come on, let's go.
You didn't ever really expect for something that big to happen. And so quickly too. Like, you know, obviously I've been working hard to that point, you know, and every step I've made was very gradual. But then to have that happen, like, of course, everything you're doing, you're like, yeah, I worked to get to this point. Right. But at the same time, there's a certain amount of luck that had to go into that too, you know what I mean?
Of course.
There was a certain amount of luck that got to come into that, man, and it was really amazing. And Matt and Kai really did take me in. When I sent them my music, I didn't just send them Manchester and Do It to Me. I sent them like 9 tracks.
Yo.
And they said they loved every single one. Wow. They just really wanted to push Manchester and Do It to Me because that was the sound they were going for the label.
Right.
You know? And those tracks, man, like, they're huge. And I it's crazy to watch how many people got to play it. Like, you know, Camelphat played it, Fisher played it, you know, Guetta played it.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. That was like, what?
That was such good timing though for you, because 2018, even though you and I both know house music has always been going like this, right? There's no ebbs and flows really, and now it's at a point where house is doing the best it's ever done, even without shows. And I think 2018, in my eyes, is really when house became a lot more mainstream in terms of people were listening to it. People were listening to Fisher. People were listening to underground music that wasn't just like house heads. You know what I mean? Like, to a certain extent, like, Losing It really put house music, and Chris Lake too, and you know, that whole brand, and Mala and Chami taking that underground and bridging the gap. And I think you can say luck, man, but I think timing is everything. And I think the cards fell for you, bro, and you deserve it, man. Those are great tracks.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
So what you do from a DJ's perspective, bro? Come on, like, that's just banging to mix in, man.
Yeah, man. Man, it was just like, it was really so crazy. And then, like, I knew I had like something big on my hands. One, when I first made it. Right. After I was done, I was like, this is crazy. Yeah. I'm like, this. But it still took a while for me to find the right place for it to get on. And it took maybe about 6 months before Gorgon even picked it up. But during that whole time, I was playing it out. And everywhere where I was playing it out, crowds were going nuts.
Yes.
And so I'm like, man, I know it hasn't got signed yet, but it's the proof is right there. You know, the proof's right there. So,
I mean, that gave you a huge platform, right? Like, taking you to 2019 and 2020 where we're at now. I'm just going to run through this real quick, okay? I know you know the deal. I need the people to know what you've done, bro. So, Bossy and this shit right here on Subsoul's imprint, Circles, does super well. Shout out to Greco, Rawsome, Freak Nasty. Dope track. Come on, man. That track is so sick. That track is low-key, too.
Thank you.
I love it, man. And of course, Codes, he's huge, man. Dance With Me on Holy Moly, a new label for him in the past year, which has done awesome so far. Yeah. I see in the back there, Diplomacy on Sonny Fodera, Solotoko. I mean, Sonny, bro, he's huge.
Yeah.
Of course, a remix for Vanilla Ace and Venky on Low Step of Simma Black.
That was huge. I'm a big Simma Black fan, so to be able to get a part of that was great.
Low Step is such an icon, man. A few more Realm releases, of course. Series Stop Playing, my personal favorite from yours. Actually, I dropped it. You may not remember. I've had Greco on the show. He's a friend of mine, and I played on the Odyssey Music Festival, and I played Series Stop Playing, and I shared it, and you reposted it. And I was like, "Fuck yes, dude!" Like,
Yeah, Greco's the homie, man. Greco's the homie. He's been a part of my career since the beginning of like my productions, because he used to live right next to Tampa. He used to live in Sarasota.
Right.
And he would play in Tampa on the regular. So, whenever he come back, we'd always chop it up. And even now, man, we're very close friends. So it's great that like that he's getting the recognition he is, especially with his label. His label's so dope.
Dude.
And I'm glad that he's helping so many artists as much as he's helped me. He's a very giving person, and I'm glad that he's been able to do that.
Yeah, man. He's fucking ripped right now too. You seen how much he's been working out?
I saw him posting today. I'm like, bro, you thirst trapping, bro?
Bro, I was like absolute unit. Like he fucking if we fought in a UFC match, you and I couldn't even take him, dude. He would destroy us. He's such a unit too. Like the first time I met him was actually in Movement in Detroit, and I had been following him, and I knew who he was, and I saw a Rawsome logo on his hat. I go up to him, I go, hey, I know you're Greco, and love your music. And he was just like such a nice guy. We connected, and I had stayed in touch with him. And that doesn't happen all the time in this industry, man.
It does it, man.
He's just a man. And Rawsome's done so well on Beatport too. Like, and it's difficult too. Like, it's interesting you said SoundCloud is like kind of the DJ pool, right? But SoundCloud is just the link to go to Beatport. And I think it's a big difference to be a streamable artist, and also on top of that to be an artist where people buy your music, right? We grew up in an age where LimeWire and all the legal softwares, man, right? Like people wouldn't buy music, and it's already so hard in the record label industry to make money as a streaming artist. Like you just said, you mentioned the guy, even the OGs know that you can't make money off record labels. Like, you make it off everything else.
Yeah.
So, and again, props to you, man, because you do really well selling on Beatport. And I think that goes to show a lot about your ability to do this on the long term, because DJs want to play your music, man.
Yeah, which is super hype. That gets me excited when people want to play my stuff, man.
Right?
As much as I am as a DJ and a producer, man, I'm a connoisseur, bro. I love hearing new tracks. I love just dancing in the crowd, and like that moment when you're dancing in the crowd, and I start hearing my drums, and I'm like, oh.
So Kyle, you're a fan first, then it sounds like, right?
I am 100% a fan first, bro. Anywhere where you see me, I am in the crowd, jamming, dancing, even before my sets. Like I don't go up before my set until maybe like 10 minutes before, 5-10 minutes before. Besides that, I'm in the crowd the whole time, and I'm enjoying myself. I love it.
And that probably makes a big difference between you and other maybe even DJs. And it's funny you said you started kind of as an open format DJ, migrated into house. And there is this invaluable aspect to doing the grunt work in that regard, right? To being a live DJ. Because if you're huge, right, and you play your own music, and that's great, people are there to play or listen to your music, that doesn't happen overnight. You play a lot of shitty gigs to get great gigs.
Oh, 100%, man. 100%. And one of my favorite things to do is like when I'm out, just on a random night and one of my homies is playing, I see a lot of people when they're like, they want to like be the person that knows the DJ. So they'll be like behind the DJ booth and everything. I'm like, no, man, I'm trying to be in front of it because I know how it feels when you're out there and like you're playing, and maybe you're playing a warm-up set, or maybe the crowd hasn't got you feeling you yet. When you got that one person that's in the crowd that's on your side and vibing, like it's a natural thing. So that's why I always try to be the person that's just sharing the vibes out in the crowd and on the dance floor, man, because I know how it can be, bro.
Dude, it can be tough, man. Playing to an empty room is tough. But that's the thing about reading a room is you can't make everybody happy, but if you find the people who are enjoying themselves and you take time to like see what is working and what isn't working, that's why like I do like a longer extended set, because you can't get everybody, but if you get that person over there and that person over there and that person over there, they're going to be like to their friends, well, why the fuck aren't you dancing? Right? And then they do it for you.
Oh, yes. My favorite thing My favorite thing is zoning in on the person that dances the weirdest.
Yeah, eye contact.
And with zoned in on a person that dances the weirdest, because if their dance is super weird, and they know they dance super weird, but they don't care because the music's that good.
Yeah.
And that's how I know I'm like, I am jamming right now, because that person has totally forgot everything that they know about in their life. Yes. They're just having a good time. So
perfect. That is literally perfect. Okay, I'm stealing that one whenever I can DJ again. I like that.
Yeah.
Find the weirdest dancer. But so as of recently, I mean, you've been releasing a ton of music and a dope new single, but let's talk about this official remix of Duke Dumont's Let Me Go. I mean, talk about a gold medal, bro. Like, I want to clap again for you. Like, that's so massive. Congratulations. Yeah. It's a great remix, too. You've been releasing a lot of remixes lately for a guy who traditionally releases a lot of original music.
Yeah, it's funny. I have friends joke about it, like, why don't you do a remix of this? And I'm like, man, I don't really do remixes. it's usually all the trouble you got to go through to get an official remix. But if it comes to me, I'm always open, and that's exactly what happened. Duke reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, I want you to remix The Fear," and I'm like, "Yes, let me do it. Yes." I will smash this shit for you, yes. And as soon as I got the go-ahead, man, I sat right down and I got to work, and I had a working track, not completed, but within the first, I'd say about 4 or 5 days to a week, the track was nearly almost there, and it was because it just came together so quickly because I just knew what I needed to do. Like, you could just feel it. Right. You know, and I was so happy about it because Duke, I was especially happy to do it for Duke because Duke was really supporting Siri Stop Playing, like, really hard. So, like, you know, him to just reach out to me and be like, "Hey, man, do your thing on it." I'm like, "Yeah, I got you, bro. I got you, bro."
Dude, that's awesome, man. Of course, Duke Dumont is one of the biggest house artists today, and so successful in so many ways. And he's, you know, like him and Gorgon City, of course, are similar and different, too, in a lot of different aspects. So I just thought it was so cool to see someone like you who has really worked so hard get that stamp of approval where Duke Dumont is literally like, "Kyle, do your fucking thing, man. Like, whatever it is, I believe in it." And you know, as a producer, like, remixes sometimes can be like, "Oh, boom, I hear the lyrics and I know exactly what to do." And other times you think, like, at least for me, when I'm thinking about remixes, sometimes I think too much about other tracks, because making a remix your own versus an edit versus an original track, like, you can't just, like, slap lyrics over a track that's unreleased in the same key. It's just not how it works.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's
right.
You gotta make it something that meshes and molds with everything that's going on different levels, you know, too. You gotta have something that makes it vibe wise. You gotta have something that kind of, you know, is emotional with the lyrics. You know, music to me is as spiritual as it is physical, and like, you can tell when a track wasn't meant to be a remix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
you can tell when a track wasn't meant to be. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just seems like, hey, man, I feel like this would be better if it was on its own. You know?
Yeah.
But like that, I knew. It's funny. When I was working on the track, I just started going ahead and, like, straight up working on my drums and everything, and I end up creating like a big, like, a good, like, 8-bar loop of what I knew what was going crazy. Right. You know, using only a few Duke samples at that point, but I hadn't put the vocal on it yet. And after I got that, and I was like, damn, is the vocal even gonna fit? I haven't even noticed. I haven't even got to that part. And then I threw it on top, and it was perfect.
Oh.
And I was like, I knew what I was doing. I knew I had it. It was all in here the whole time, bro. It's your body, just, it's muscle memory.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
You hadn't even put the lyrics on. That's great, man. Meant to be. He knew, you knew, but you found out.
Yeah. My heart knew it was like, this is gonna be dope. But my brain was like, bro, you ain't throw the vocal on yet, bro. How you know it's gonna work?
Dude, that's such a funny story.
Yeah.
Well, out of all these releases, do you have any one that means the most to you, regardless of streams or success?
Oh, I would have to say Siri Stop Playing.
Yeah.
Because just how I made it. You want me to be truthfully honest, I made that track after I got done DJing one night. I couldn't go to sleep. I just had a bass line stuck in my head. And I just woke up maybe like 4 a.m. Just kept working on it and maybe worked on it for about 2 hours, slept a little more, woke back up and started working on it again. And within like that 10-hour time span, I almost had a completed track.
What?
I was done.
Half asleep.
It was almost done. And it was, like I said, it was very much like how the Duke one came together. It all came out so naturally in that track. And I just love the way it sounds. It's very like emotional and driving. And so it's just I'm very happy about that track because it's one of those ones where you're like, wow, that one really is who I am.
Yeah, I like that.
And then also Bossy, because just people love Bossy, man. Everywhere I go, man, people just love, just like everybody just gets into Bossy, yo. They all start singing it, they jamming. I see the girls and they're like Bossy with the drink in the ears, and and Bossy's definitely become a movement, and so I would definitely have to choose that one too. Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be like I was like, man, this is a little too hard and grimy for people. Maybe it ain't gonna be it, and people loved it, man.
Right. Jesus, Kyle. At this moment now, looking back, was there times where you did doubt yourself, or times where you really did believe in yourself? Did they happen close together? Like, you're at this incredibly successful point now with still such a bright future ahead. Do you ever look back and think, I almost stopped?
Nah, man. I there was never a point where I was ever like, you know, I'm a stop or I'm give up, because that was never the end. The be successful was never the end goal for me.
Love that.
It never was. That my whole thing was just, I just want to make music I love. That's all I wanted to do. So right. whether I had to be working a day job and doing this on the weekends for the rest of my life, okay, that's fine, as long as I'm still making some dope music. Yeah. And so, you know, I will say it gets hard sometimes, because, like, you know, you got to deal with the normal shit you deal with. You got to deal with rejection. You got to deal with all these things. So that sucks. But never have I ever been like, man, I should just hang it up, or, you know, this ain't gonna be working. You know, never. It's just my whole thing was, I'm gonna be doing this till the day that I die because I fucking love it. And simple fact that I've had some success and it looks like this may be what I'd be able to do the rest of it. Well, that's just the plus. That's the icing on the cake.
Sure. I love that, Kyle. And I think that's great to say, because my biggest thing from what I've learned about myself in music and people I talk to and friends is, you got to do it for the love of it. Because the second you don't do it for the love of it, the second you chase a trend, you chase a fad, you chase something, is the second that it all comes falling down. Because if it literally, like, in the beginning, like, dude, when I started doing this podcast, man, like, not a lot of people listened. You know what I mean? My dad, big supporter. My mom, big. My girlfriend says she's a big supporter. Right? But if it was only me and you and my mom and my dad to listen, I'd have just as much fun, because what I realized was the best part about it for me is connecting with people who are passionate about music. Yeah. And I'll do this the rest of my life, man. Literally, I'll do an interview on my deathbed, bro. Like, my
bring the camera.
One more time. Tell me where you're from. But I feel you on that, and I knew you were gonna say that, because I could just tell, like, you love music, man. And there's so many people in our industry who, they love music, great, they've had success, but where's their plateau, and will they keep going? Because there is this point, right, where you're here and then people are like, well, I've been here for so long, it's not going to happen. You don't even give a shit. You're like, bro, I'm having a great time, man. Like, I'm DJing on the weekends, doing my thing, I'm making music.
Well, bro, it's easy, because I take one of the things that I really do is like I really take pride in the little things, man, and like something as easy as just hearing my favorite track, on a bad day just changes everything for me, bro. Like I still get goosebumps off of the same tracks all the time. You play Daft Punk Voyager, I'm gonna get goosebumps, bro. Even new songs, you play the new Mad Dog Joe song, Off My Mind, I'm gonna get goosebumps, bro. If you play Gorgon City Imagination, I'm gonna get goosebumps, bro, and it's just gonna change my day. So like just the simple fact of having that, just when you hear something good, you're like, man, how could I not do this shit for the rest of my life, bro?
Of course, man. I love it. I want to ask you real quick before I start asking you about the success you've had live show-wise, your production process. It obviously hasn't happened overnight. Like you said, you've explained here in a few different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this drive, this innate love to get better. Have any aspects changed, maybe for the better or worse, since your first release to where you're at now in terms of like creativity? I mean, obviously, it kind of happens like randomly, it sounds like, to me, for you. What's your
process? Music? I'm a very vibe-oriented person. Mm-hmm. So anytime like I feel like I'm forcing something, I usually kind of like I'll force it to a bit, but if it gets to the point like just to make sure that I'm using my time correctly. But like if there's a point where it's just I'm literally just throwing stuff together and it's just not working and I'm getting frustrated, like stop. It's it's nothing productive is happening at that point. You're just gonna make something you hate, Mm-hmm. And so, in the way my process is, I do use a lot of melodic stuff because, obviously within my ability to be able to still, understand music theory because of, the instruments I played.
Right.
I'll mess around with, making new, very like weird bass lines with a bunch of different tones or, just messing around with new, piano melodies and stuff. And that will help spark things for me. Sometimes I'll be stuck on a track and I'm like, all right, well, I need to put a lead on this track, and I make a lead and I'm like, this doesn't work with this at all. but it kind of sounds dope. And then I'll just, all right, copy, paste it in the new project. And then that's my starting point. And then I'll make a whole new song before I even finish the other one. So that's how it happens sometimes. And I can tell you right now, like there are probably 15 deadbeat projects in my FL right now. There's probably ones that they're just aren't there. But at the same time, they got a little bit to it, but like they just died out. But that doesn't mean that, I won't go back and visit those tracks at all. I mean, there was one track, it's not out yet, so don't tell anybody. It's not out yet, but there was a track that I started right after I made Shoot. Mm-hmm. And 15. I left it. And then I came back to it after I signed Manchester.
What?
So that's like a 2-3 year gap in there. Shit. And I made it this really used all these same things that I had in there, but I just worked with it differently, and I made something really dope. Wow. And I'm hoping I get to release it real soon at some point. But like it's like I said, man, like sometimes you'll come back to stuff. Sometimes I'll go back and look at my backlog and be like, man, this was a really dope idea. Why did I stop this? Mm-hmm. And, sometimes it's as simple as you need a new perspective on things. You can't look at something the same way over and over and, to find something new about it. Sometimes you just got to stop that day and come back later, maybe whatever it's a month later or just a day later or 3 years later. And you come back, you're like, wow, I could really do something with this.
Right.
It becomes a really nice track. So, it's like I said, it is definitely vibe wise, for me. That's how the best ones come out,
Yeah.
Manchester came out that way. Serious Stop Playing came out that way. Bossy came out that way. A lot of my biggest tracks are the ones that came out supernaturally, So like.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
It's good advice. And I think so many people struggle with that, right? Especially if you are trying to be a full-time producer, full-time DJ, when like it becomes a job, sort of, right? Like,
yeah.
especially in America, man, right? Like in our generation, we're raised to work hard and make money and live this step-by-step life, right? And then all of a sudden, people like us are producers and DJs, and we're like, yeah, you don't have to do that.
Changing the narrative, man.
Exactly, man. So you said you use FL Studio?
Yes, I do.
Always been?
Yeah, because you want to know what's real funny? When I was in high school and I was playing saxophone, one of my other homies in band, we also played football together and stuff because everybody in my school did everything. You had to do everything. Like that was mandatory. Yeah. So like somebody downloaded the demo version of FL. Yeah. And then so we all went back and started downloading and messing around. And like we all made some pretty cool stuff, man, but you couldn't save it because it was the demo. So so that was like my first like workings with like a DAW like that. Mm-hmm. And then in college I took a couple classes that let me use Logic. Yeah. And so I used Logic a bit, but while I was working in Logic, I was going home and working on FL. Mm. And like I started to realize, man, all these things, they all work the same.
They do.
There's just little intricacies, your preferences, but they all work the same. Yep. Most of my friends work on Ableton, pretty much works the same.
It's all toolbox, right?
Yeah. So I just feel FL. I just feel my workflow moving a lot quicker in that. Mm-hmm. Also, the way I manipulate samples in there, to me, is a little bit easier because you can just drag and stretch them really easily. Right. So get the time stretch them and everything. Yeah. So like I just work faster in FL. So that's why I've been using it. And and when it comes to like plugins, like I love Serum. I use Serum for bass lines and leads, but like a lot of the basic FL plugins are really good. Like a lot of my early stuff was the basic FL ones, and you'll still hear a couple of my songs now that have some of the basic FL ones. I think what track that came out? I had a track in the beginning of the year that came out, Free Your Mind. Yep. The two tracks on those, the bass line is an FL original plugin.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and like they some of them work really well, man. So like it's one of those things is like use all the tools you have at your disposal, man. You don't have to always get all the new and nice stuff all the time. Like sometimes what you need is right there in your hands. True. Yeah.
I watched Disclosure do a Twitch stream, and I'm in Logic, and they use Logic too. And I like got my notebook out, and I'm expecting them to like tell me all these plugins and VSTs and all this shit. And they're using like AU audio, bro. Like it's like literally the built-in Logic. I'm like, F for you, bro. This is like what made them famous. And they were laughing. And I love British people humor when they make fun of themselves, dude. And he's like, well, I really thought that I was gonna, impress people and make himself feel like an idiot. And I'm like, fuck you. I can do it. Like, what the fuck? He literally is using like Alchemy, which is like a basic like install on Logic. And I'm thinking to myself, here I am over here getting Serum, getting Valhallas, doing this, doing that. And it is so true. It goes back to the less is more motto, like you love.
Yeah. Bro, if it sounds good, it is good. It's that simple. Yes. If it sounds good, it is good, bro. Don't get too caught up in whether it's like, oh man, this is a basic whatever or anything. But if you can put it in your track and it sounds really, really good, and you know how to work with it well, man, use it. Ain't nobody's what person is really out there at the club saying, oh, this is a basic FL plugin, this is trash. Nobody, bro. Nobody.
Dude, only DJs.
Man, this bass line sounds dope.
Only DJs and producers look at that shit like that, right? There's 98% of people in the crowd are fans, and they're like, yeah, didn't notice that bad transition, didn't notice that stock plugin, right? Like, nobody fucking knows, dude. Why do we think so hard about this, right?
Nobody knows, man. So don't even stress it, bro. If it sounds good, it is good, and that's all you gotta work with, man.
That's the Kyle Kinch production advice, man. I love it.
Yeah.
So with all these successful productions, obviously it's led you to some incredible gigs. I want you to tell me about Brooklyn Mirage and the Tobacco Dock in London, man. Those are like shit, dude. Come on. Once again, the guy from Tampa. Like, let's go, bro. Let's go.
So Brooklyn Mirage was really special to me because I was born in Brooklyn. So yeah, I was born in Brooklyn, and my family used to live there. They were still living there when I played there that night. A lot of them just moved, but like that's like basically my hometown. So I was so excited to be able to go back and play there because like it was almost like, man, like look, I left and look what I've done, and I was able to come back here and do it here.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Love that.
And the Mirage it's probably one of the best venues in the U.S. It's just amazing. Man, when you walk in there, just lights and vibes everywhere. It just looks so good.
Dude,
and
like so New York, like it's so unique.
It's so unique. And then being able to play, you know, I've opened for, at that point in my life, I had opened for a lot of big DJs already. So that wasn't really anything that was like really blowing me away. But the fact that I was there with them, I wasn't opening for them. You know what I mean?
I was with Gorgon.
Like I'm here featured. And like that was super hype. And you know, I had a lot of homies that are in New York, so they all came out, and that was just hype, bro. Like I remember when I started my set, because I played a little early. I remember when I started my set, there was a few people, so I started off a little deep and groovy. Right. Man, next thing I know, this place is packed, and I'm running it, bro.
Let's go.
I'm running it, man, and there's a lot of people there too that like they're my friends, but they never got to see me DJ yet.
Sure, of course.
And like to be able to see me do that on that stage, they were just amazed.
That's surreal.
And then just right afterwards to have, you know, Teed come up and be like, yo, man, that was dope. Like, it was great. And pass it off to him. And watch Lee Fawcett up there and do his thing. And then to watch the homies Gorgon City, who had put all this together, have so many people come out just to watch them on the very first Realm show. And me to be able to be a part of it. It was so amazing, you know. And then I got to meet the other guys on the label too, like Local Dialect. They were there because they're in New York. They're based out of New York.
Right.
You know, it was just like everything about that night was amazing.
You felt, I mean, sounds like to me like you had had success through releases, but that was kind of the first in-person tangible, like something's happened in my career and I've almost, made it. In my eyes, bro, like if you play there, you made it.
It was really easy to see. It was easy to see the fruits of my labor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you know people mess with your stuff, but like you don't really know till you play it there. Right. And then Tobacco Dock was that tenfold. Fuck. So being able to go, I've never been to Europe ever. I haven't been anywhere. So being able to fly out there, I got family there, so that was great. I got to go see my family. Mm-hmm. And that day, man, I just showed up. And like everybody's welcomed me there. I'm getting to see other DJs that I'm friends with, like Greco and them. I got to meet Max Chapman, and Max Chapman's like, "I heard of you, mate. You got good stuff." And I'm like, "The fuck? you heard of me, bro? What?" I'm expected here to be the nobody here.
Right?
And
yeah.
Motherfuckers like they fuck with my shit. So I'm like, damn, this is dope. And then I was opening the Realm stage, and it was about the same. I don't know if you've ever been to space, but like it kind of had space vibes because it had like different levels of the place, but it was a giant warehouse. Mm-hmm. And I started off, and like it was kind of like, you know, the Mirage show where I started off with a few people, but 10 minutes in, the place is packed out.
Right.
And like I see people who are singing my tracks. They're out here, singing the lyrics. I got like this group of middle-aged women that are asking me to come down from the decks to come hang out with them in the front. And I'm like, yo, I still gotta play. I've got 40 minutes left. Like,
dude, that's fucking awesome, Kyle. Holy shit.
Yeah. And then my cousins were there, and they didn't know. Well, they knew I was a DJ, but they didn't get to experience any of that because they've been in the UK the whole time.
Right.
So like seeing them get super hype and like it was just so crazy. And then everybody who was on that lineup were people that I've been like, friends with. So like Norm Pure was there, Chris Lake. I got to open for Chris Lake here in Tampa, so to have him there. That was the first time I met Pax, but I got to hand it off to him, and they were just, we're homies right there, bro. Right at there, bro. They were just loving it, man. It was a good old vibe. So, then so like this was like 4 p.m., 4:30. Yeah, that's what I was saying. They were going that hard that early. And so after I got on stage, like, man, these people are just having a great time. And people are pulling me and like, man, that was amazing. We've been waiting to see you play and shit like that. And I'm like, it's crazy. It's crazy to see people who literally thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
Continents away.
Worship you, bro. Yeah. Hell yeah.
So like that was just a great day, and after I played, I was just hanging out, having a good time, man. Meeting people, having a good old time, bro. So it was really awesome, man. And I love London. It was such a great place. It was such a great place, man. Yeah.
What's going on there right now with the nightlife scene and the government? Just like
it's so sad, man. Because
dude,
being there once. Just one night, I got to see how crucial and necessary nightlife was to those people.
Yeah.
And now just to see the government turn their back on them like that, man, it's absolutely terrible and it's sad. But
quietly turn their back, like
they don't.
Tell them
I just feel like it's the same thing with our government, man. They're just out of touch. They don't understand. They've never gone to those people that are making the rules have never gone to a rave. They've never been the person working the door or being a bartender or a DJ or setting up the venue or owning the venue. They don't understand all the jobs that they create and all the people that they're supporting. And then at the end of the day, just the release that they're giving people, the release from day-to-day woes that they're giving people on a single. And so when a person doesn't understand that, they just look at it and they can just be like, well, you don't need that. That's just you having fun. That's not necessary, Yeah. And I think that's truly unfair because this is people's livelihoods. People have spent their whole lives, to try and build something that's been crazy successful and so special, and it's sad, man.
It is sad, man. I know it's been tough year for the music industry as a whole, especially the electronic music industry. What is your opinion on, I guess, how have you been going about your thing? Obviously, it's been a big year of releases for you. Creatively, it changed your way in the studio, knowing that you're a guy who DJs play your music, you're a guy who loves performing live. Are you thinking about things differently, knowing that when you release a track, it may not be able to be played live for we don't even know how long?
I mean, it hasn't really changed the way I go about things. I still kind of make the track the way I kind of used to. The one thing I will say, though, the inspiration is a little different because you're not playing every weekend. So when you're playing every weekend, when you go back into the studio, you're making something like, yo, this is going to sound dope in the club.
Exactly.
You're not making necessarily club music anymore.
Right.
So, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a great thing. I think that opens up the world to be able to be more truthful to what your sound is, because you're not just trying to make something, hey, I'm gonna need to make this sound dope here. No, you make something like, I need to make something that makes me feel something right here, right now, in this chair, in this house.
Right.
You know, I want to make something that speaks to what I'm feeling right now. And I really think, and I've talked to other artists about it too, and they all kind of feel the same consensus that there's a new level of inspiration that has come out of it. So I think there has been benefits for people, not the benefits that we're looking for, not money wise.
Yeah.
but there's definitely been a few benefits in terms of musicality to what's going on, you know? And there's a lot of people who've capitalized on that, you know? There's a lot of people who put out a lot of great releases. Some of my favorite tracks, period, have come out during this time.
That's
you know?
Fact.
So like I really am. I'm proud of everybody who's still releasing, and all the ones who are making, like, you know, different routes for people to do stuff. The people who are making the virtual festivals, the people who are, despite what's going on right now, are doing their best to just give us a nice light at the end of the tunnel for us, you know?
Well said, Kai. What advice would you be to people that are maybe trying to get into the music industry now? If you were looking at, let's even call it 2013 Kyle Kinch, what would you tell yourself with knowing now what you're facing? Keep making music, keep doing your thing, or what's the mindset?
You kind of got to be a homebody and a socialite at the same time. And it's crazy to sound like that, but like, you have to, the second, you know, you get home, you burn it in the studio. But then when it's, you know, there's a show going on, you got to be out and you got to make those connections, because nobody's going to want to book a person who's not out seeing what's happening or can't bring people out or anything. And I tell new DJs this all the time. I'm like, they're like, how do I get to play here? I'm like, you want me to tell you how you get to play here? You show up every time they have an event and you bring people. That's how you get to play. That's how you get to play Saloon. So like, luckily I knew that back then, so I was able to get that to going. But like, you know, a lot of people don't understand that aspect. So yeah, man, you gotta be as social as possible, but then you also gotta give yourself enough time in the studio to be able to learn. You gotta do both, because if you just sit at home and you make all these dope tracks, yeah, that's dope, but who are you gonna be playing them to?
Not only do you go to shows, not only do you need to produce, not only do you need to be a social media manager, not only do you need to be a brand ambassador, not only to be a graphic designer, not only need to be a videographer, not only be a pop. You gotta literally do everything.
You gotta do everything, man, and it's wild, bro. Like even my skills, even like my video making skills have like boosted, because I gotta make I make my own promo videos sometimes.
There you go.
You know, like it's crazy the skills you have to learn. But the two core skills that you definitely have to be able to do is definitely just be able to put yourself out there in a social aspect. You know, if you're out there at the club and you can't be the one that's just like there to party. You got to be, you know, there, you know, figuring out, you know, introducing yourself to everyone, letting them know who you are, you know, so that your name is at least in their head.
Yep.
You know, they might not need to know who you are, but they need to hear your name at least once, and then twice, and then 3 times. And then the next time they come out, they're like, yo, who's that kid that keeps bringing people? Oh, that's Kyle Kinch. Maybe we should put him on. Huh?
There you go.
You know what I mean? It's that simple, man.
You
gotta hustle, you know?
I love it, man. What's coming up for you the rest of this year then? You got anything you can announce?
Yeah.
It's October, I guess, right?
I just had a wild card release this past Friday. Wine on Red Cups is currently right now the person who did the remix, Venky, who's awesome. His remix is right now on the best new hype playlist for Beatport, so that's great.
I told that today, man. Congrats.
That's real good stuff.
Beatport loves you, dude. They love you, Kyle. They do.
It gets me hype, man. And then I have a release coming up next month. I'm not gonna tell you who it's with, but I do. And I've already started to gear up for releases for next year, man. So you can expect more of the same, but fire music.
Let's go. I love it, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm excited. I heard, you know, you said Mark Knight way earlier, so I hope a Tool Room release is coming soon, bro.
Bro, I've been trying to get on Tool Room I started producing to the point where it's almost like I've almost got beef with Tool Room at this point. I was like, yo, release my music. I'm so determined to get on Tool Room at some point. Just wait. It's gonna happen. You'll know when it happens. Because I'm gonna be wilding. But yes, I am a big Tool Room fan. 100% want to get on Tool Room. Defected, I definitely want to get on Defected too. Like those are my goal labels right there.
You're all right there, man. This has been such a fun conversation, Kyle. Thank you so much for taking the time, bro. Again,
yeah,
like,
man.
acknowledge you, like all the hard work you put in here in your story right now, like it only solidifies you as one of the biggest guys up and coming in the game. And again, I am a huge fan. And anytime this gets back to normal, you come to Chicago, or I can come see you, bro. Like I book shows in Chicago. Like you're like on one of the top of my list.
Yes.
Bro, you got.
I would love to come to Chicago, bro. Let's do it.
Big fan base in Chicago, bro. Like I promise you that. I promise you that.
Yes, man. Well, let's do it. I'm ready, bro.
Dude, I gotta hang out with you in person, bro. I love your energy, man.
Yeah, bro. Let's fucking hang, bro.
Okay. All right, bro. I'm not Tool Room. Don't fucking put beef with me. Dude, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. No problem, bro. It was nice talking with you.
Keep doing your thing, man. I'll keep dropping your tracks, all right?
All right, most definitely, man. Peace.